And that's literally what acne is. This is also what eczema is, which is your body sending out inflammation in response to an imbalanced microbiome. Most elegant solution would be if you could maintain somehow and prevent the overgrowth of this acne bacteria that's feeding on the sebum, then you don't have to care about how much sebum you're producing, whether it's through food triggers or through sweat or through exercise. Everybody doesn't have a food trigger, but for those people who do, what's happening is when they eat a particular food.
What would a food trigger be, for example, and why doesn't everyone have one? Dr. Varma, there are so many skin experts and acne treatments on the market today. What makes the information you're going to share with us any different?
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be on this podcast. My background may be a little different from some of the other guests you've had on. I'm a microbiome researcher. I'm a scientist. I've been doing microbiome research for the last 13 years. And it's a very young field, so it hasn't been around for very long. And I've been fortunate to see a lot of really consequential discoveries made, a lot of great technology spin off of this research. I feel like I can speak to what is sort of known currently about the science of the microbiome, bring knowledge from kind of what discoveries we've made, what's in the literature, hopefully to your listeners in a digestible and understandable way. And I'm also currently involved in research. As part of the company, we lead a lot of phage research with our technology. So we're kind of in the thick of it, and we do this on a day-to-day level. We interact with people in the industry, and so hopefully I can bring a really sort of understandable but nuanced and complete perspective.
Great. I look forward to it. And I know that you specialize a lot in microbiome. How important is that when it comes to our skin and when it comes to acne? Because I imagine the people who are tuning in to this interview have suffered for acne probably for a while, and they've probably tried multiple things. So what is the role of microbiome when it comes to acne?
Yeah, kind of to set the table, I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard about the microbiome, mostly in the context of the gut, but we also have a microbiome in our skin. And I like to think of it as this invisible rainforest right on our skin. It's invisible because its trees are made of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and these microbes live together in a community that we call the microbiome. Now, microbiome research has showed clearly that the microbiome exerts a protective function. We used to think that these bacteria were just around, but it turns out that they talk to our body and our immune system and all the processes in it, and they inform it, and they sort of manage to keep a homeostasis, which is to say that they keep the bad bugs out, they protect your skin, and they help keep your skin not inflamed, but in a normal state. Um, and you and I have healthy skin, but your skin microbiome probably looks different than mine, right? And that's okay, because when we're all healthy, all of our microbiomes are in their respective balance. They're in a state of balance, right? What happens with a lot of chronic diseases caused by bacteria, and it certainly includes acne, but not just acne, it includes eczema and rosacea, etc., is that you, this balance that you have in your microbiome at health gets disturbed because one bacteria usually grows way out of proportion. And your body, because it's kind of plugged into what's going on in the microbiome, it senses this imbalance and it throws out inflammation to try and bring it back into balance. And that's literally what acne is. This is also what eczema is, which is your body sending out inflammation in response to an imbalanced microbiome. So with acne, although it's a multifactorial and complex condition, it's affected by hormones and diet and genetics and stress. One of the biggest factors really that drives the inflammation is the overgrowth of this one bacteria. And we've known about this for, I don't know, 80, 90 years. So it's not new. It's just that microbiome research and tools in the microbiome have given us a unique way to now control the overgrowth without going overboard and killing the good bacteria in the process as well.
Okay, I'm glad that you mentioned the gut microbiome. So I'm wondering if the gut microbiome is off, will the skin microbiome be off? And you also mentioned diet. So how much does that play a role?
Yeah, I mean, there's this concept called the gut-skin axis, which is basically saying that what's happening in the gut is sort of talking to the skin. And that's not, unusual, not an unexpected, because those are the two areas where we have the most bacteria, right? The gut obviously is number one with a huge bacterial load, but there's also the skin. Now, there are people whose diet, right, affects their acne, for example. And the way that happens is whatever you eat um, has an effect on the oil that your skin produces, the sebum, right? Now, this sebum is the best food source for this one particular bacterium on our skin called C. acnes or Cutibacterium acnes. And this is the acne bacteria that, when it grows out of proportion, it causes acne. So, and this is not a trigger for everybody. Everybody doesn't have a food trigger, but for those people who do, what's happening is when they eat a particular food that triggers their acne, it's causing their skin to change the amount or quality of sebum they're producing, which in turn feeds the bacteria, and the overgrowth results in acne.
Okay, you said not everybody has a food trigger.
Mhm.
What would a food trigger be, for example, and why doesn't everyone have one?
A food trigger, for example, could be dairy, right? Or it could be chocolate, or it could be spicy food, or there are a number of things. And the reason why some people have it, some people don't, is because we're all individual, right? We all have our unique skin history, skin type, how long we've suffered from acne, the severity of our acne. And so those factors all play into whether or not you have acne, whether or not food triggers your acne, or it's some other, big factor in that.
So dairy could be milk, cheese, butter, but you also said chocolate. Would that be the caffeine in it or would it be the sugar?
Um, that's a good question. And for some people, it's sugar, right? So if they have a lot of sugary, not just chocolate, but candy or stuff, that could be it. I don't think it would be caffeine. Chocolate has a very small amount of caffeine, and it actually has a much larger amount of a caffeine-related molecule called theobromine. But I haven't really seen much evidence because I mean, cocoa or chocolate has a lot of theobromine, and so I would be um, I don't think that's a widely uh, sort of known sort of acne trigger, but some people think pizza. What component of the pizza I couldn't tell you, but it's usually something that's probably high in carbs and very high in fat as well. So I think people who have a food trigger probably know that they do, because it can be pretty evident from what they do and the effect that it has on their skin.
Does that mean no matter what you do, if you're still consuming that trigger, that type of food trigger, then you're going to continue to have acne?
Normally I would say yes, except um, remember, when you're eating the food is not the problem. It's causing an increase in sebum production. The sebum production in itself is not a problem, right? The sebum production is not causing inflammation. It's the bacteria that eat that and overgrow that are causing the inflammation, right? So the most elegant solution would be if you could maintain somehow and prevent the overgrowth of this acne bacteria that's feeding on the sebum, then you don't have to care about how much sebum you're producing, whether it's through food triggers or through sweat or through exercise. Um, you don't also have to monitor closely what you eat and how much you eat so much, because the actual acne trigger, the acne bacteria, is now being kept in check through some other means. And that's actually where our technology comes in, because that's exactly what we do.
I know with Accutane, which is the harshest, strongest drug on the market for acne, it essentially stops your body from producing sebum, if I'm correct. So it
That's right.
stops your skin from producing that oil. But then why is it that roughly 50% of people have their acne return after taking that drug?
Yeah, that's a great question. The relapse rate of Accutane is pretty high, especially when you factor all the serious, side effects that it causes, which are pretty gnarly. And, maybe we don't need to go down the laundry list, but it does include things like birth defects, liver damage, joint pain, inflammation, um, and of course, a risk of depression and suicide, which is even worse for acne because acne has such a big mental health component to it. Um, because Accutane, and by the way, the relapse rate is not just high for Accutane, it's also high for antibiotics, it's also high for benzoyl peroxide. What all of these have in common is they're trying to kill the bad bacteria, right? But they're not specific. They're not just killing the bad bacteria, they're wiping out the good bacteria as well. And from my kind of rainforest analogy, it's like saying, oh, I have an invasive species that is kind of overgrowing and choking the native plants in the forest. I know what I'll do. I will, set the whole thing on fire, or I will chop all the trees down because that will definitely get rid of the invasive species, right? Well, yes, but you've also now decimated the forest that you were trying to protect, right? So in that way, because these modalities, antibiotics, Accutane, etc., kill indiscriminately. They're not just killing the bad, but also the good. They're thinning out your microbiome, which is this protective layer. And as a result, when you stop taking the drug, right, because you can't be on Accutane forever, you can't be on antibiotics forever, and so on. Now you don't have a protective layer anymore. So when the bacteria start growing back, the bad bacteria now are going to grow back with a vengeance, and there will be nothing holding it back left to stop it and try to balance out your microbiome. And that's one of the, I would say that's a prime reason for the frequent relapses that we see with these products.
Yeah, I can actually attest to this from my own experience years ago when I was having severe acne, cystic acne. There was so much going on my skin that they had to test my skin to see if it was some sort of disease.
Mhm.
And the solutions they offered me were Accutane, antibiotics, topical steroids, birth control, all of those things that just my body, was, what's the word? When your body just kind of freezes up,
Yep.
it was just, yeah, it wasn't the answer for me. And all of the lists that you just said for Accutane, that was one of the main reasons. And I did a lot of research on it and found all of the horrible testimonials of people that had been on it for 2 or 3 rounds and they still saw their acne come back. And I know also when you're taking Accutane, they tell you to eat all these fatty foods so that the medicine can work properly, which is also counterintuitive.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, so I would love to get into the solutions that you found. And I know with all of your research and your experience that you were able to find something that is not harmful to the body.
Yeah. And I just want to say, listening to your journey, I sympathize, and we unfortunately hear this quite a lot from our customers. A large segment of our customers are people who've tried a lot of things, pretty much everything under the sun, right? Brand A, B, C, they've gone to a dermatologist, they may have taken retinoids, and they still can't get their acne under control because, as you said, the rates of relapses are pretty high. And moreover, I feel like a lot of parents come to us saying, the derm is saying my kid has to go on Accutane full stop. I really, really don't want to. And what's happening with these parents is they were on acne medication when they were kids, right? They didn't like it. It didn't really work for them. And now that they have kids, they're looking around, hoping that science has advanced to the point where we have much more efficacious products, which with far fewer side effects. And they're kind of stunned to see that we're still using 1980s technology. Accutane was approved in 1982, and there really hasn't been any new revolutionary path forward. And as a result, it's not just patients that are frustrated, it's also doctors and providers, because nothing new has come out for acne. They're coming out with all sorts of cool new drugs that are efficacious for eczema and psoriasis and all that. Acne's kind of left in the dust. And so that's what we wanted to pick up. And speaking of our technology, as we discussed, the central player here is the overgrowth of this one bacteria, right? So the solution, if you could just kind of magically, snap your fingers and make it happen, would be, what if I could just control how much that bacteria grows and, stop it from overgrowing without hurting any of the good bacteria, right? And you're like, science fiction, can we even do this? Well, it turns out that we can, using an organism that's already in our skin microbiome. It's called a bacteriophage. And these are so bacteriophages are tiny viruses that kill bacteria. They're everywhere. They're in seawater and soil, and there are billions of them in our body. They're very harmless to us. They don't really interact with human cells, but they're nature's best killer of bacteria, and they're very specific. They only kill one kind of bacteria, right? Now, the really, really interesting part of this is, a few years ago, there was a study comparing healthy and acne skin microbiomes to see, is there a difference, right? Can we pick apart the difference? And maybe we can take the thing that's deficient in acne skin, in acne microbiomes, and put it in there to help round it out and enrich it. We know that acne microbiomes tend to be less diverse. And what this study found was that the only difference between the healthy microbiome and an acne microbiome is people with healthy skin have a phage that kills acne bacteria, right? This organism that specifically kills acne bacteria. And acne microbiomes do not have this. It's very, very rare to find these phages on acne skin. And as we get older, I'm sure everyone knows that acne kind of fades away, right? The prevalence of acne in teenage years is much, much less than, let's say, in your 50s. This study showed that the amount of phage on your skin increases as you get older, right? And so the really cool thing is we all have these annoying friends, right, who have perfect skin, who just shrug and say, hey, I just never got acne. My skin has been clear. I never struggled with that. Chances are they have these phages on their skin, balancing their microbiome and preventing this bacteria from overgrowing. So we decided to put this technology in a bottle, put this amazing organism in a bottle. So you don't have to, have this accident of birth to get this phage on your skin and be acne free. You can have the benefit of this organism, even if you don't have it, by taking this bottle, applying it, and then adding it to your microbiome.
Incredible. Okay, so now everyone wants to know more about this. What's in this magic bottle? How do I get it? When do I put it on? Will it work for everyone? Will it work for people who don't have acne?
Well, the answer to that is maybe. We are in the early stages of trying to figure that out, because we know that the bacteria that causes acne is the number one bacteria on our skin. And for you and me, and for every adult or even teenager who's listening to this podcast, there are more of this bacteria than all other bacteria on their skin combined, right? So it's more than 50% of all bacteria on your skin usually.
Wow.
The fact is, even if you don't have full-blown acne, if you're experiencing kind of blotchy skin or uneven skin tone or dull skin, a big part of it is the microbiome imbalance that is throwing off like low-grade inflammation, which is not progressing to the point of, blackheads and papules and pustules, but it is still affecting your skin. And we've seen this kind of anecdotally from our customer base. So we're going to be trying to figure out, what is the extent of this product's impact on your skin health. But sort of going back to your original question, we are Phyla, the biotech company that I founded and lead. We have a consumer brand called Phyla, bringing this to the market and to people who suffer from acne. We have a 3-step product. It's very simple. The system is a cleanser, a serum, and the moisturizer. Our secret sauce, the phages that we use, are in our serum, which is a green bottle. and it contains millions and millions of live active phages. So you're supposed to start with the cleanser. It's a non-foaming gel cleanser. It's very gentle, and it doesn't actually dry out your skin or disrupt the kind of oils in your skin, because those actually are beneficial. There's a reason why your skin produces it. It contains salicylic acid and tea tree oil, which open up your pores. And then you use the serum, which then delivers the live active phages to the pores. They get in there, they start working right away. And the third product is our moisturizer, which is a very fluffy, light moisturizer that delivers in like intense hydration without clogging your pores or being too greasy. And so we wanted this to be a regimen that anyone can use, a simple thing to kind of simplify your routine, and something that works with everything, whether it's sunscreen or makeup or other products that you might use.
I actually have the products here. I wanted to show, your team was kind enough to send me these. But the reason why I asked, if, someone without acne could try them, I was hesitant to try them myself because I no longer have skin issues. But I also, after reading about them, and I would really like to try them, but I wanted to personally, get your opinion on whether that would be safe or beneficial at all for my skin now that I'm not experiencing any issues, or if I wait, maybe if I'm having a breakout and that's the best time to try it.
Well, from the scientific point of view, balancing your microbiome has a lot of effects, right? Whether you have acne itself or whether you have other underlying skin issues or if you think your skin needs a boost. And the important thing is balancing your microbiome is not a one and done thing. You have to work at it. You have to keep it in balance. First, you have to bring it into balance, and then you have to keep it there, right? So we encourage people who've seen acne relief to continue using our product as a maintenance regimen, because what we've seen is that this phage, although it lives long term on healthy skin, for whatever reason, it tends to keep falling off acne skin. And we don't know exactly why, but we've seen this. So we don't know if using it for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, or a little longer regularly will result in the phages permanently taking up residence on our skin. But the answer surely isn't simple because it will depend from person to person, right? Like we said, your acne history, what type of acne you have, and how long you've had it, how severe it is, all of these factors will play into how long it will take for the phages to engraft into your microbiome. So the best thing we want to tell people is get your microbiome in balance, keep it there, because the worst thing we want to do is get rid of your acne, you stop using the product, and it comes back, right? Because that doesn't help anyone.
Once you start using it, you're going to want to continue using it, or and you don't know, or you're not sure, it will depend on each person how long they'll need to use it, or once you start using it, you'll need to continue using it indefinitely.
Yeah, what I'd say is that start using it and then keep using it, observe the kind of benefits, the longer term benefits on your skin. And then if you feel like, you're not really suffering from the effects of an imbalanced microbiome, whether it's, redness or any kind of, unwanted skin effect, then you can stop taking it after a certain amount of time. But the only way to tell if your microbiome is balanced and will stay in balance long term is the experience of it, right? And of course, you can do a microbiome test, but those tend to be expensive. They're not very like it's hard to understand the results. And so I would recommend that you kind of just experientially apply the serum, keep using the serum. And the great thing about the serum, the way we built it and the reason we built it is that it has zero side effects, right? Unlike benzoyl peroxide or anything else used for acne, which comes with all of this baggage, right? The dryness, the redness, the inflammation, or worse. Um, our product is sort of scientifically calibrated to help you balance your microbiome, and it has no side effects. So it is built for a chronic condition like acne, which you deal with for months and years, because you can use it every single day, twice a day for months and years to balance your microbiome.
Okay, great. I can't wait to try it. I did see that you're meant to put it in the refrigerator, which I did not do. So because of that, am I now going to miss out on some of the effects, or is it still going to give me everything that I need?
So because our product, that product that you had, the serum in the green bottle, contains live active phages, like any organism, they they prefer it to be a little cold, right? It preserves them more. Our product is room temperature stable at, at room temperature for 2 to 3 months. And so even if you didn't refrigerate it, and of course we ship it unrefrigerated because we know that in transit for a short period of time, it can handle actually quite high temperatures. It's just over a longer term, you want to keep it cold. So although the phages will still be alive and active and the serum will work, for best results, we recommend putting it in the fridge.
Okay. And going back to the food triggers for a moment, have you tested whether those food triggers have the same effect while using your products?
The food triggers, depending on how sensitive you are, some people are much more sensitive than others to food triggers. And in that case, we would say you should avoid the foods or drastically reduce the amount of them in your diet just normally. Because surely it's having not just an effect on your skin, but it's probably having a systemic inflammatory effect as well. Um, if you don't have such a sensitive food trigger, then likely you can probably resume eating at least small quantities of your food, of that food, and ramp it up while you're on Phyla, because it will, like I said, it breaks that critical link and gets to the root cause of acne instead of affecting something indirect that's kind of further down the chain. So that would be my recommendation. But of course, this is not medical advice. I'm not a medical doctor, I'm a PhD. And the best person who can give you that advice is probably an allergist, right? Or a dietitian. So that's the person who you should go for, especially if you have more severe forms of food intolerance or food allergies or food sensitivities.
Gosh, yes. Okay. During my horrible skin times, I saw an allergist. I went to my primary care. I went to a Chinese medicine doctor. I had all the different blood tests done. It came back that I was allergic to all kinds of things. I sent in one of those tests
Mhm.
through the mail. So every test I did came back different. Some said I was allergic to nuts. When I went to an actual allergist and I had all the squares on my back, and then
Mhm.
they pricked the different squares with different, testing different things, everything came back fine. Like I wasn't allergic to anything. And that was after receiving blood tests and the tests that you mail in and everything coming back to varying degrees, showing that I did have some type of sensitivity or allergy to these different foods.
Mhm.
And all the while, I'm also trying Proactive. I got a face peel, which just, destroyed the microbiome. I'm sure, like you were referring to earlier with killing the whole forest,
Yeah.
100% did that early on. So for me, it was definitely a combination of diet and what I was doing to the surface of my skin. Uh, yeah, this would have been a game changer for me if I found this during uh, my darkest days of my skin. So I'm excited to try it out now, though, even though I've gotten through the hard part.
Yeah, and what you're listening to your story, I think what it tells me the most is that people are so motivated to get rid of their acne because, you can't blame them. It's on our face, right? We face up to it every day in the mirror. We see how people see us, it affects our sense of who we are. And um, all of the things you said, right, is probably not a stranger to anyone who suffered from, moderate to severe acne, because you go in, you want treatment, you just want this thing to go away. That's it, right? But you enter this kind of bewildering world where you're pulled in these different directions. You're sending all these kits out and all these tests out, and you're just trying to understand what's going on with your skin and your body. And instead of making things clearer, sometimes it can be much more confusing and complicated and daunting, right? That's one of the things that we want to strip away the most, which is give people a single solution. At this point, we know enough about acne that we don't need to personalize this product. We know that because it hits the root cause, it's going to give you results without any side effects or having to compromise your skin health or your overall health with harsh products. And so I'm really looking forward to for you to try this and give me feedback, and for your listeners to kind of learn more about this new technology and make the best decision for themselves.
Yes, I have one final question I ask everyone at the end, but before I do, where can the listeners go to find Phyla and to learn more?
Yeah, so we are Phyla, Phyla. You can find us at phyla.com. There we have our science, our clinicals, and we are also at Phylabiotics on the socials, on Twitter, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc. And so as a scientist and educator, I try to do myth busting and try to interact with our customers as much as possible. But there's a whole lot of information about acne, about our technology, and that's where you'll find us.
Great. All of that will be in the description, of course. And my last question for you today is, what is your number one health tip? So whether that is mindset, diet, and nutrition, physical, emotional, just the one piece of advice you would like everyone to know.
One is kind of hard, but maybe not my number one, but one of the things that I try to do the most is to incorporate exercise and spending time in the outdoors. I have a dog, she's 2 years old, and I love taking her out for a walk for 30-40 minutes in the day. Initially, it kind of forced me to go out, but now I kind of look forward to it because it's a little time outside. It helps me unplug from just looking at my monitor, which so many of us do in our work. And you think that you can't find 20-30 minutes in the day to do quick exercise or go out walking. You absolutely can, and you'll be so much happier for it.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Dr. Varma. This has been extremely interesting, and I'm excited to get to share these products with everyone who's suffering with their skin right now. So thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. This was great.